Hi everyone. I'm going to start out 2022 with a 1957 movie, The Tarnished Angels. And this was a Kino release, I believe in 2019. I bought in the recent Kino Winter Wonderland sale. And it's a good movie for me to start off the new year because it has a lot of elements in it that I really love. And it's directed by Douglas Sirk, one of my all-time favorite directors. It was filmed in black and white CinemaScope. That is my favorite format of all time. It's a 1950s melodrama. I grew up on 1950s melodrama, and they still have the same. Those movies in Hollywood and from abroad have the same attraction for me that they always have had. We also get a reteaming of Rock Hudson, Robert Stack, Dorothy Malone. Sirk's previous movie featured all three of these actors in a movie called Written on the Wind, which was a huge hit, and it's coming out for the first time on Blu-ray February 1st by the Criterion Collection. Well, a movie I'm really looking forward to. Dorothy Malone won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress in Written on the Wind. We also get another terrific commentary by Imogen Sarah Smith, and that's always a plus in my book. The movie is set in 1932 in New Orleans Mardi Gras time. It's about a group of stunt pilots who travel around the country in daredevil shows. It's a group of three. The pilot, played by Robert Stack, was a World War I hero. He's fallen on kind of hard times. He's addicted to flying. There's an element of post-traumatic stress syndrome from his wartime experiences, but he's very famous. And as a teenager, Dorothy Malone idolized him and then eventually caught on with his group. She becomes the daredevil skydiver from the plane, and then they're married. They have a son, and the third member of the group is their mechanic, played by Jack Carson. And they're unhappy group of they're this unhappy trio because they are rather tortured and conflicted individuals, which is kind of normal for a Douglas Sirk melodrama. They're joined by Rock Hudson, who plays an alcoholic reporter who is fascinated by their daredevil nature and the heroic stature from the war of the pilot, played by Robert Stack. So he kind of insinuates himself into the group because he thinks he's going to get this great story. And the little boy, the first scene of the film, the little boy is about 10 or 12 years old, and he is being bullied by some of the other pilots in this carnival show, and as to who his paternity, who his father was, who's your daddy, and because it's rumored that the mechanic, played by Jack Carson, is actually his father and not the famous Robert Stack character. So, and Rock Hudson, as the reporter, comes to the little boy's aid right from the beginning. So we see this kind of cruel world. We see this party atmosphere at the carnival. The movie is somewhat a resemblance to Billy Wilder's Ace in the Hole in some of the plot elements, and certainly the depiction of the crowd, which is insensitive and just interested, almost fascinated by this daredevil flying show because they hope somebody crashes. And it's, as I say, carnival time. We see death masks everywhere in some of the most inopportune moments, there's a little bit of poignancy too, because this is Sirk only made, I think, 2 more movies, and but he made about 8, 9 movies with Rock Hudson, and was really responsible for the persona, the Rock Hudson heroic everyman kind of persona, which he has here. He also is conflicted because he's not only alcoholic, but he then falls in love with the Dorothy Malone character, and he thinks she's wants him too, but it might not, it may or may not be in the cards. Also, the look of the film, I mentioned the black and white cinematography, the widescreen cinematography, and Sirk usually filmed in color, and he usually filmed with Russell Meddy, who was at that time the Universal cameraman for Universal, the A1, but I don't know why he didn't film this, but Irving Glassberg is the cinematographer who I don't know anything about. Imogene Sarah Smith said he basically worked on B movies, but and Sirk himself said in interviews, and if you ever want to read some really good interviews and watch some of the videos of these interviews, Sirk is a great, absolutely great interview. He's critical of his movies, and he's a very cultured man, tells he doesn't hold anything back in his interviews. But he didn't like the widescreen. He thought his type of film should be filmed in the Academy ratio, or at least the 1:8:5 ratio. But he uses it magnificently. The lighting in here, even though this isn't Russell Meddy, the lighting is here. I'm going to stumble over the word chiaroscuro. That's a chiaroscuro, which is, that sort of light and shadow that Sirk in this film is really great at. But Sirk also wanted to film this in color, but budgetary constraints. Now, this was a personal project for Sirk. He was a flyer himself. There's airplanes in a lot of his films, and he loved the novel that it was based on. Tarnished Angels is based on a novel by William Faulkner called Pylon. It's kind of a boulderiization of sorts. Some people think it's actually, the changes they made are actually better than the novel. The Pylon, not one of Faulkner, not considered one of Faulkner's great novels, but Faulkner himself thought it was the best adaptation of any of his work on screen. It's also a 50s melodrama is different. It's just melodrama itself has gone, almost totally out of style, and because of the heightened emotions, a different style of acting. You get plot coincidences, you get some dialogue that you might want to laugh at, and today. But I think people probably laughed at some of this dialogue even then. But they loved it. They loved this kind of heightened sense of emotions and characterizations. And even if you think it's something to be laughed at, nevertheless, when you're done watching this, I think you're going to see it as a terrific experience, and for many different reasons. And one of them is how Sirk can take these kind of primal emotions and kind of develop them into like a myth-like characters and a myth-like story elements to it, because again, this is not naturalism, and every time I watch this movie, I find it very, very moving, and I especially like the way he uses Stack. He would often say in comparing Stack and Robert Stack and Rock Hudson, that Hudson was stolid. He didn't do conflicted nature very well. So he was sort of like the audience identification. Stack, on the other hand, could do conflicted really well. And Written on the Wind, coming out, as I say, on February 1st, is another Stack performance it's simply terrific. So again, we get the commentary by Imogen Sarah Smith, and this is really one of her really good commentaries. She analyzes the themes, and we get all the biographical information. It never seems like she's reading it off of IMDb. She knows just where to go. She talks, her talking style is elegant as her and insightful as the essays and the books that she's written. Okay, that'll wrap up the first film of 2022, Tarnished Angels. Thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen to me this far. I appreciate it. Comments are welcome. You guys take care.